What's up guys, it's Tube. Today we're going to be talking about the third legendary in Scarlet and Violet, and we're going to start from the basics. So this is the photo in Heat's book. It is described by him in his words as a supposed disc entity that was deep in Area Zero. There's not much context to the image, but I'm going to try to explain to you guys different ways you can look at this photo. But I'm going to start with some cool fan art I saw of it that can put into perspective just what we're seeing here. So here's the first one by Starguard Sora. It shows a giant ball with some kind of creature hugging it. We got wings and the creature's coming all around with that floating crown on its head. Now let's go back to the picture that Heat saw. It's a pretty good rendition of it. This is the problem with this photo here. We don't know how to look at it. Some people have tried to flip it upside down. Some people like Michael here say it's kind of like a biblically accurate angel. It's hard to tell just what Game Freak was thinking when they wrote this Pokemon, because if you go to the different languages, Japanese, Chinese, they all describe it in the same way, as a disc Pokemon. And disc makes no sense. Even this right here, this is not a disc. If it is what it looks like in the photo, it is a 3D ball. Maybe it's the core of the Pokemon. Maybe it's the theory that the third legendary is a man-made Pokemon. But clearly, if Heath gets a lot of other details wrong when describing the Paradox Pokemon, there's a good chance he's described this wrong. So let's take a look at this fan art. The interesting take here is that it's shown as this giant ball of crystal, but the Pokemon itself is separate. It's kind of like a little serpent, which goes to a fun idea that maybe the creature in Area Zero was some kind of serpent and that it was filled with water, and this Pokemon used to just lurk here for some reason. This fan art also makes it look a lot more peaceful and minding its own business. To me, when talking about the third legendary, only one typing comes to mind, and even though it's known as Esper in Japanese, Psychic has always been the light type in Pokemon. That's why so far they haven't introduced the light type. We thought there'd be a light and sound type around the time Fairy was introduced. It was never gonna happen because we always did have a light type, and there's proof for this because Solgaleo, Lunala, and Necrozma all are psychic types because that's the light type. So I think Psychic is a pretty good guess. For other typings, Dragon does work, but it's a little overused, and Fairy does work, but Psychic and Fairy is starting to be a common typing. So my favorite idea is if it was a psychic water type. Maybe it doesn't have evil intentions. Maybe it's a peaceful Pokemon, and that's why it's granting people's dreams to come true. If that is the theory, that's right. The only other typing this could possibly be is a pure normal type, only because it's the Terra Pokemon. Depending on how its abilities go, it's able to mess with all 18 types and allow a Pokemon to change into something that isn't even. The only other typing it could be is like a rock or poison type, like Glimmora, but I don't think that's the case, because especially when you see fan art like this, you'd want the third legendary to be more of its own crystal Pokemon, and Glimmora to be just something that was sucking on that energy and grew into a flower. Here's another take by Sora, taking into account the biblically accurate angels concept. And this take right here, it's a lot harder to see just what the Pokemon is, and would explain better why Heath drew the photo like that. And going back to the photo, it almost looks like, the more you look at the photo, that Heath didn't meet the creature face to face, but he was like looking down a hole. And there's other details in the photo, like they have planets shown in the distance. I swear that's Saturn. And I don't exactly know why he drew those planets in it, or Heath and his team drew those planets. But it pretty much looks like they looked in this hole at the deepest part of Area Zero, and they saw the third legendary minding its business, almost like some egg. Imagine the third legendary really is this egg, and we about to, after it crashed a million years ago, we about to go and poke this egg to wake up, to hatch into something. Going back to this fan art, it shows the Terra symbol at the top of it, which is actually in Heat's book's photo. It shows that Terra symbol up there, which is an odd detail. The other odd thing that is in Heat's drawing too is that crown up there. Just what would that crown mean? Why would there be a Pokemon with an actual crown? And obviously this leads into another idea, which is, where is this third legendary located? Is that room that we went to where the time machine is located inside the third legendary, in the inside of this ball? We know barely anything about what happened near the end of the game there. Is there a chance that's true, and a chance that the time machine that we put the book in, the crap right above, is the crown here, which would link back to this entire thing being some kind of mechanical Pokemon? I've started this photo a lot, and I've looked at it from all sorts of different angles. The best way I can show it to you guys is to look right in this part. It really looks like you can see some kind of chameleon serpent creature, and that its hand is right there, and that you can almost see through this crystal ball. The living side of this is all located in that part of the image, but then you have this whole circle that no one can properly explain. Another thing to point out is that there is a ship there. The heck does that mean? Is the ship really there? Did he really see a ship there? And he's like, we gotta make this accurate. How could a ship be in the deepest part of Area Zero? You added on to me thinking that the crater was filled with water and someone's ship got sunk all the way down to the bottom when the water disappeared. That is like a 20,000-year-old ship. There's another way you can possibly look at this image, and this goes back to the anime. So on November 11, 2022, one of the last episodes of Pokemon Journeys aired, and in one of the scenes at the end, Ash goes by this painting. So here it says, to be continued, he's answering some phone call. And the painting is kind of interesting. I'm going to start off by saying there's no proof this even has anything to do with the disc Pokemon. But a lot of people sent this to me saying, well, this is November 11th. This is the end of the 8th gen anime. Why wouldn't it be a hint for something in Gen 9? Obviously, the only connection you can draw is that it's a round disc like the third legendary is described to us as. But what this photo really is a painting called A Sailing Ship on a High Sea by Moonlight by a guy called Ivan Ivazovsky. And his most notable painting is called The Ninth Wave. Shout out to Koroblitz for figuring this out. That's really what the photo is, but it raises an interesting idea because you can see in the Russian dude's painting that what it really is a full moon. What if Heath was just looking down and he saw a reflection from the open sky above them? If you want to tinfoil up, his notable painting is called The Ninth Wave. Ninth like the gen, wave like if there's water in the crater. Obviously, we're just playing around, but it's an interesting thought because chances are what he saw isn't entirely accurate. There are many ideas that can be done with the disc Pokemon, and we know the machine is just there ready for someone to use again. So I'm certain that in the DLC, we're going to find out what the machine really is, where Sada and Toa really went, what the Paradox Pokemon really are, and what the disc Pokemon really is, and if we're literally in the body of it when we're doing that final scene in the game. Because I do want to bring up one other point. When I was scrubbing through the footage, I was re-watching to see if there was anything new to notice in that final battle, and this is something I noticed. So at the end, Sada warns you that she's about to attack you because the original Sada programmed her to. So when she attacks you in that moment, what that really is the original human Sada's will, not letting you stop all the stuff she's worked towards. But what happens after that? Remember, I've explained in previous videos that AI Sada could not comprehend why Sada would do certain things, which makes no sense because she has the same mind as Sada. The only way this would make sense is if Sada was not following her own thoughts, which is why AI Sada can't understand it, meaning that she was following the third legendary's thoughts. What happens at the end of the game after you overpower Sada's will is the freaking room starts going crazy and AI Sada says, damn, just how far did Sada go? It seems like she only cares about the time machine. Her again failing to understand what someone who has the exact same mind as her is thinking. I want to ask you guys, who are you fighting at the end of the game? When it says Paradise Protection Protocol, it's not AI Sada. Is it human Sada's will? My answer is that what you're fighting at the end of the game when she's terastallized and her eyes are creepy is the third legendary's influence. That's my understanding of the last fight. So because I imagine that the third legendary is influencing people when they go down there, maybe it's not such a kind Pokemon as we showed in these images, but it could still look kind like that. Make sure you guys shank that like button. I am waiting on Divine Diamond, but it's taken a bit, so I'm playing a different game behind the scenes, and I'm going to show you guys that soon too. So wait for that, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.